Thank you.
It's been an intractable problem for U.S. presidents for decades, for the region. For President Obama, the Israeli-Palestinian dispute is about to get more complicated, could impact potentially his re-election campaign. We're talking about the Palestinian quest for statehood. It's coming to a head in New York at the United Nations next week. Let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Jessica Yellen. She's working the story for us over at the White House. What are they saying over there? What's going on, Jessica?
Hi, Wolf. Well, administration officials have been unable to head off a Palestinian effort to press for statehood at the United Nations next week. Now, no one knows exactly how this will play out, but what we do know is that for this administration, much more than just foreign policy is at stake. As the president fights to keep the nation's focus on his jobs plan, a new crisis looms. He'll be thrust into a high-stakes showdown over Palestinian statehood when the United Nations General Assembly gathers in New York next week.
The Palestinians will not and cannot achieve statehood through a declaration at the United Nations. It is a distraction, and in fact, it's counterproductive.
But it's going to happen, so says Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. With peace talks stalled, Abbas insists he'll ask the UN Security Council to give Palestinians statehood status, which the Obama administration vows to veto. That could alienate Arab allies the U.S. desperately needs. Allies who might question the president's commitment to freedom for all people in the region, given his strong stand during the Arab Spring.
I think already diminished American credibility is going to be diminished further. There's no question about that. We are neither admired, feared, nor respected in this region.
Exactly how the administration handles this diplomatic dance could also trigger a cascade of political troubles at home. Democratic Congressman Engel of New York worries the president will lose some Jewish support because of his past rhetoric on Israel.
I think there is the potential for being hurt in the next election if many Jewish voters perceive that the administration is not standing foursquare behind Israel, that there is somehow a blame both parties attitude.
There are signs of tension with the president's Jewish supporters, usually a reliable Democratic constituency.
As for Israel,
many were angered by this speech suggesting controversial borders for a future Palestinian state.
Based on illusions.
Then there was the awkward meeting in which Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lectured the president in the Oval Office. And this week, a Republican won a longtime Democratic and heavily Jewish district in New York. That victory seen in part as a rejection of the president's positions on Israel. When it comes to Jewish voters, Congressman Engel says there's still uncertainty.
I do think that people are uneasy. They want to know what the president feels it in his guts. And many people don't get that feeling.
Now, Wolf, a majority of Jewish voters, I should point out, still do support the president. According to Gallup's latest polling, 54% of Jewish voters approve of the job the president's doing, but that is down from 68% who had that who approved earlier this year. I should also point out that Jewish voters make up a tiny percentage of the overall electorate, but they tend to be reliable Democratic voters. And given the tough election year the president is expected to face, he cannot risk alienating any part of his base. Wolf.
I know the president's going to be in New York addressing the General Assembly next week. Do we expect this issue on Palestine to go down while the president is in New York, Jessica?
It will definitely be the backdrop of behind everything he's doing. What could happen is that the Palestinian Authority could submit a letter to the Secretary General of the UN applying for statehood, or they could issue a resolution to the General Assembly if they want to go to the General Assembly instead. But these things do take some time to play out, so you might not actually see a vote on the issue while the president is there. But as I say, it will be the issue looming large over everything the president does while he is at the General Assembly next week, Wolf.
I'll be reporting from New York all of next week while the president's there, other world leaders, and among my guests next Tuesday, the former President Bill Clinton. Jessica, thanks very much.